Being able to perform malware analysis can be extremely beneficial during an investigation, as uploading it to a sandbox can tip your hand to an attacker who might be monitoring to see if their binary had been uploaded for analysis. Now, you don't need to be an expert and reverse engineer malware, but you should know how to perform basic static and dynamic analysis. Today, we'll go over a lab together from Let's Defend, and if you want to follow along, spin out Remnux as we'll be using this virtual machine to perform static analysis. If you aren't sure how to do that, you can watch my video that I created on how to get started with Remnux. Let's get started. All right, let's first head over to letsdefend.io and start creating an account if you haven't already. Once you've created your account, you want to select Learn that is located at the top. And then we want to search for malicious document or malicious doc. And the one that we're looking for is this analyze malicious.doc file. Now here we have a little bit of information. It says analyze malicious.doc file. The file link is this with the password of infected, all lowercase. Note, do not open on your local environment. It is malicious file. Just like anything else, make sure that you're using a virtual machine to perform your analysis. There are additional write-ups here that can be found, but let's do this together. Now, I'll be using my Remnux machine to perform the analysis, and I already have the file located here, as you can see, factura.zip. We can unzip the file using the unzip command, and then I'll type in factura. And as for the password, again, it is infected, all lowercase. Now we should have a document called factura.doc. Type in ls, and there we have it. Let's run a file hash on this file by typing in SHA-256 sum factura.doc. And then we can go ahead and copy this hash and perform some OSINT on it using VirusTotal, for example. But before we do that, let's continue to run some commands to find some additional information of this file. Next, we can use a file command to see what the file actually is. So I'll type in file factura.doc and hit enter. Based on this command, this file appears to be a rich text format. Now we'll see how large the file is, and we can do that by typing in ls-lh, and we can see that it is 12 kilobytes. When performing static analysis, we are trying to identify a couple things here without actually executing or opening this document. We want to figure out, when was this file created? What does this file do if it were to be executed? What are the contents within this file? And does this file reach out to any domains or IPs? To begin, we can use a tool called xftool to take a look at some of the timestamps. I'll go ahead and clear out this screen and type in xftool. And then I will point it over to my factura.doc. We see the file modification time over here, and that is set to 2021 February 27th at 8:53:06 a.m. So this gives us an indication that maybe this file was created around that time. Now, of course, these timestamps can be changed, but nonetheless, we'll take note of it. Both the file access time and the change date time is when the file was on my machine. Now, because this is a rich text format document, aka RTF document, we can take a look at what tools exist in Remnux that might be able to help us out. What I like to do, and it doesn't work all the time, but it is a great start, and that is to type in what you're analyzing. So for example, in this case, I am analyzing an RTF document. So I'll type in RTF and I'll hit tab. This will show us some of the tools that exist in Remnux, and we do see 2 tools that might help us. You could also Google these tools as well to see what they do or what kind of tools exist to help you analyze the document or file that you're analyzing. Let's go ahead and run rtfdump.py. I'll use the -h option for the help menu, and it says here, analyze RTF files. So that's perfect because this is what we are trying to analyze here. Let's take a look at the other tool, the RTF object, I believe. So let's type in RTF and then include -h. So from here, it doesn't really tell us what it's trying to analyze, but again, we can Google it to see what its purpose is. So searching up RTF object, we can see that it says it is a Python module used to detect and extract embedded objects stored in RTF files. such as OLE objects. That might be a tool that we will use to see if it can extract anything from our document. I'm going to clear out my screen here, and then we'll use the tool RTF dump.py, and I'll point it over to our document, factura.doc. All right, so we do see some data, and I'll be completely honest with you, I have no idea what I'm looking at. So I did some research, and I was looking at a sample analysis that was performed by the creator of this tool, Didier Stevens, and apparently the C determines how many childs the certain level has. P is the file position, L is how long the bytes are, H is how many hexadecimal digits that exist, and B is the binary entries. Lastly, U is for unknown characters. Now that's a little bit of a head scratcher, to be honest, but that's okay. Generally, when performing malware analysis on files such as a PDF document, RTF, or Office documents, we tend to look for tags or risky keywords, which in this case, we do see two objects. So this one right here that I highlighted, object 998, and then there's another object data right here. So these are considered risky keywords, as it may contain something of interest. Now I'll leave a link in the description for you, as this will contain a list of things to look for when you're performing malware analysis. On a document, for example, it is a very helpful guide, so do take a look at that and bookmark it. Using RTF dump, we can drill into the object by selecting their stream number. So their stream number is located here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm interested in this object. This object is located under the stream number 2. So I'm going to be using RTF dump to drill into the stream 2. To do that, we can type in RTF dump -s and then select the stream. Again, in my case, it's 2. And then I'll type in factura.doc. Okay, so we do see a lot of random data. And this appears to be some kind of hexadecimal format. And I'm talking about this right here where I'm highlighting. So these appear to be hexadecimal format. Now, thankfully, RTF dump allows us to decode hexadecimal right from the tool. And to do that, I'm just going to type in -H. Did I know that from the get-go? Definitely not. Using the -h to bring up the help menu helps a lot. It is there for you to take a look at what exists that you can use. And in this case, look at this one right here. The -H decode hexadecimal data. And that's what we want to do. So that is why I am going to run RTF dump.py -s, point it to my stream, which is 2. And then I'll do -H to decode the hexadecimal. Now this seems a little bit better. We no longer see zeros. Instead, we see a lot of dots. And there doesn't appear to be any, words. So in that case, we'll just leave it as is for now. And I'll test out stream 3 because that is where the other object lives. So I'll type in -s and point it to 3. Now this does seem to be, the same. Yeah, it does look kind of the same here. Okay, no problem. Let me clear out that screen there. And just for fun, let's go and drill into stream number 1. And let's scroll all the way up in the beginning. Oh, actually, right here, I see root entry. So we're seeing words now. I'll note this down as root entry and equation native. That might be something of interest. Let's scroll all the way up and just gibberish. Okay, cool. At least we do see some words, root entry and equation native. What happens if I use the other tool now? This one is RTF object, and then I'll point it over to our document. And ooh, nice. So we do see some red letters here with the MD5 hash. There's a Microsoft equation 3.0, known related to CVE 2017 11882 or CVE 2018 0802. That's pretty cool. This tool immediately told us that, hey, whatever's in this code could be used to exploit this vulnerability. Awesome. I am going to note that down in my notes. I'll copy these 2 CVEs. Now let's see if there is an option to extract this object by using this tool. We can type in RTF object -H for the help. And let's see if there's anything about extracting. And we do see save object. Save the object corresponding to the provided number to a file. For example, -S2 or use -S all to save all the objects at once. Let's save all the objects at once. I'll clear out the screen here, and then I'll type in -S all and hit enter. Perfect. So it saved our file to factura.doc_object and this .binary. So let's type in ls and we see it there. So let's run a file command on our newly created binary there. .doc_object, hit enter. It says it is a composite document file v2. Let's take a look at the hexadecimals by using the command xxd on this document. So let's type in xxd factura.doc_ and hit enter. Now let's scroll all the way up. Ooh, I actually saw root entry and equation native. So this right here. Now we see the first couple bytes are D0CF11E0. Knowing this, we can look at some file signatures on Gary Kessler's website to try and get some more information on this file. To get to that site, all you need to do is search up Gary Kessler file signature, and it is the first link here, garykessler.net. So we'll go ahead and click on that. Now, what exactly are file signatures? Well, file signatures, aka magic numbers, is what is used to identify or verify the content of a file. So, for example, we know that our first couple bytes from that file was D0CF11E0. So what I'm going to do is Control F to find D0CF11. And we can see that this is linked to an OLE file right here, an object linking and embedding compound file. So knowing this, it gives us more context to this file. Now, what exactly is OLE? Well, this is used by Microsoft to embed objects or items into a document. Attackers love to abuse this to deliver malware. Luckily for us, Remnux has some built-in tools that can analyze OLE files. So let's head back over to Remnux. Now that we know that we're dealing with an OLE file, what we can do is type in OLE and hit tab. And now we can see a list of tools that we can potentially use to analyze this file. I'll be using the tool OLE_dump.py and see what it can do. So let's type in dump.py -h. And just looking at the options already, it looks very similar to the tool that we just used to analyze RTF documents. So let's try pointing it to our file. So OLE_dump.py factura.doc. That is the wrong one. Of course, that is not an OLE file, so we'll point it to the correct file. And we do see one stream, and it's called equation native. Now, if this tool was like the other tool, probably do a -s to drill into the stream ID 1. Now, taking a look at the contents here, I'm just going to scroll up, and it doesn't appear to be anything that we can read, which gives me an idea that what we're looking at might be shellcode. And you might ask, what is shellcode? Well, shellcode is a small piece of machine code that is typically used as a payload. In other words, it is used to exploit a vulnerability or run some instructions to do a certain task. Again, lucky for us, Remnux has a tool installed called scdbg, and that is a shellcode analyzer. So let me go ahead and clear out this screen, and then we can use scdbg, and we'll run that. So after a couple seconds, you will see this window pop up. It's just basically saying, hey, this is your first time running this. Would you like to register the shell extension? Nah. Now a window will open with a couple of checkboxes that you can use. First and foremost, let's go ahead and browse for our file by clicking on the 3-dot icon, and then I'll click the factura.doc_object.bin file. And now I'll check create dump, as I would like to output whatever this tool can find to my machine. And I'll also select find SC, as this will allow the tool to search for possible shellcode. Now that I have both of these options checked, I'll go ahead and select launch. And in the background, right here, we can see that it found 7 entry points that has a function of get proc address. And you might ask, what is get proc address? And basically, this function retrieves the address of an exported function or a variable from a DLL, a dynamic link library. Now you might be like, what the heck did you just say? Well, in other words, it's instructions on what to do next. And because these are all get proc addresses, I'll go ahead and just select the first index, which is 0. All right, so we do see some additional information that we can actually read now. We do see an interesting executable, aro.exe, placed in the path app data. The shellcode is instructed to load a library called urlmon, and then it also tells it to download a file from this URL. So http seed-bc.com ending in jan2.exe, and essentially put that file into the application data or app data path called aro.exe. Very sneaky. Now, if you were investigating an incident that involves this particular malware, you can now start searching for devices that communicate with this URL, and then you can scope out for potential compromised machines. For those that have downloaded this particular file, you can then retrieve it and perform some additional static and dynamic analysis. Now, I do think we have enough information to get started with the questions. Starting with question number 1, what type of exploit is running as a result of the relevant file running on the victim machine? Since this is being delivered as an RTF document, it is likely that the type of exploit is an RTF exploit. And looking at the format, I'm going to type in rtf.exploit. Next is, what is the relevant exploit CVE code obtained as a result of the analysis? Now, if you recall, we identified 2 CVEs when we used the tool RTF object. We can try the first one, which was CVE 2017 11882. I'll hit submit, and that is correct. Awesome. Question number 3. What is the name of the malicious software downloaded from the internet as a result of the file running? Now this we saw was jan2.exe. What is the IP address and port information it communicates with? Ooh, that's a great question. We can search the domain of seed.bc on VirusTotal, and then we can look for the most recent IP. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll type in virustotal.com, and then I'll search up seed.bc.com. Was it .com or was it .net? Let me quickly check here. It was .com. Okay, perfect. Now we do see that 12 vendors have flagged this domain as malicious. We'll go under relations, and then at the bottom, we can see that the most recent date is 2019-11-28, and the IP last recorded was 185.36.74.48. Now, if we go back over to our Remnux machine, we can see that the protocol being used is HTTP. And if you recall, the port of HTTP is port 80. So the answer to this would be this IP of 185 on port 80. And that's correct. The last question is, what is the exe name it drops to disk after it runs? Again, if we head back over to our Remnux machine, we do see that this malware goes out and downloads a file called jan2.exe and then writes it to disk to aro.exe. So that would be this answer here, aro.exe. And perfect, we just finished this malware analysis exercise. Now, as a bonus, let's go back to VirusTotal, and then we'll look at the file hash that we retrieved earlier. Now, looking at VirusTotal, immediately we see there is 41 vendors and 2 sandboxes flagged this file as malicious. Now, we could have easily just uploaded this document onto VirusTotal, but that's no fun, and you might be tipping your hand over to the attacker. Now, we can take a look at the details and then scroll down. So the first time this file was submitted to VirusTotal was back in 2021, February of 28 at 9:24 UTC time. If we go to relations, we can see that this particular document contacted seed.bc.com specifically trying to grab the jan2.exe. We figured this out via the shellcode analysis, and here it contacts the IP address of 185.36.74.48, which resolves to seed-bc.com. According to this, that domain was created back in 2014, June 12. If we go up into behavior, we can see some of the file analysis of this particular malware. If we had an IDS sitting in front of this traffic just listening in, these are the two signatures that might have triggered, depending if we have those signatures in our IDS solution or not. Scrolling down, under files written, we actually see our aro.exe, which is pretty cool. Files dropped as well, we see that as aro.exe. Scrolling down, we also see the processes created. And again, aro.exe appears here. Let's scroll back all the way up and then select community. And scrolling down, we do see we see 95 comments as of recording. And the verdict is malicious. Yeah, sounds about right. Malicious, malicious, and malicious. Looking at the tags, we see that it is tagged with a CVE 2017 11882, which we already identified, and shellcode as well. Now, the next time you're investigating a malware sample, run a hash and then check VirusTotal to see if it exists. If it doesn't, start performing your static analysis, but do not immediately just upload that file onto any online sandbox or tool. Do try and perform basic static and dynamic analysis on your own. Now, if you don't have that skill set, that's okay. Go ahead and consult your senior analyst and follow process. Again, you do not need to be an expert in malware analysis because I clearly am not, but you should know enough to try and obtain additional context without uploading to an online service such as VirusTotal or any other sandbox. Sure, they can speed up the process significantly and save you a lot of time, but the main reason that you want to avoid this being your first option is because, again, you don't want to tip your hand, especially during an ongoing investigation. An attacker can quickly change up their tactics, or worst case scenario, head straight for their actions on objective, which could mean data exfiltration, or even ransomware if they know that you are onto them. If you didn't know already, I am in the middle of creating my SOC course, which I will link down below if you want to sign up for the waitlist. This course will go over both static and dynamic analysis in more detail, and it will include many others such as network and endpoint analysis. It will have a lot of projects for you to do that you can add onto your resume and build up your portfolio as well. It will be an exciting course. Again, you can sign up for the waitlist down below in the description. That is it for the video, and I hope you found that informative and enjoyed it. Remember to stay curious and do things differently.